Buenos dias. In this presentation, I'm going to do a quick explanation of the past tense in Spanish. If you've missed class because of all the testing that we've been doing, this would be a good resource for you because you can take your time and really look at it. So the past tense in Spanish is called preterit. And this presentation of the preterit goes along with the Así se dice Spanish 2 repasoE work that we're going to be doing in class. Why do we have to have a preterite tense? Because Spanish teachers like to torture their students, and because the preterite tense would be used to talk about things that happened, that are completed actions. It's the simplest past tense that you have in English. It would not be compound. It would be a very straightforward conjugation. So talked, walked, visited. Okay, we know that there are irregulars in English. There are also irregulars in the preterite. But for us, in this presentation, we'll talk just about the three verb conjugations and how the formation will look if you're working with an AR, ER, or an IR verb, and you want to work with it in the past tense. Working with an AR verb, like the verb hablar, for example. Working with any verb means that you're going to find the stem. The stem for regular verbs does not change, and so hablar is always a good example of a regular verb. So I will repeat the stem, and then, like we did before, instead of putting on endings that would indicate present tense action, I need a set of endings that will show me that the action has already taken place. So in the yo form, instead of an O, you're going to work with an accented E, hablé. In the do form, haste, hablaste. Third person form, habló. Nosotros form, hablamos. And the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, oh my, what am I doing? This is Phelps, you're tired. Just kidding about that. Just to see if you're paying attention. So, as I was saying, Aaron. Okay, so now we have hablé, hablaste, habló, hablamos, hablaron, and that's how I would conjugate any regular AR verb in the past tense. The set of endings that we'll use for the ER and IR verbs, and you heard me right, there's going to be one set and they're going to share it. I'll do on the next slide. Okay. So if I have an ER verb or an IR verb, like either comer or vivir or any of the other verbs that we work with in class that we know are regular, I'll take off the ending. The part that's left is the stem. Again, the stem doesn't change when I'm doing a regular verb, and so basically we're just looking to find a set of endings that I could use for either comer or vivir that will indicate past action. Accented I for the yo form, iste for the second person. Very similar, yo, to what we did for the AR. Comimos. We'll put this one on hold. Vosotros. And IERON. See, that's what I was doing before. Comieron. So now we've got two sets of endings, and they show past action. This would be read comí, comiste, comió, comimos, comieron. On the next slide, I'll talk about three irregulars, and that will end this presentation. Three verbs that we're going to be using in the beginning chapter, especially as we get into chapter 1, are a little bit irregular in the they're very irregular. They're irregular, but they're small verbs. Ir and ser and dar. So these three verbs, they break the rule. Ir would, because if you took off the IR, there's no stem left. So that's a pretty good indication that it's going to be irregular. And just an FYI about the verb ser, it's almost always irregular. Okay, so as we look at formation for ir, and here's the even stranger part, ir and ser use the very same forms. So if I wanted to talk about, an action completed, I went to the store, I would use fui. If I wanted to tell you what I was before and no longer am, I would say something like fui niña. Okay. fuiste is the second person form for either one. So, fuiste a la tienda, you went to the store. Or fuiste niño malo, you were a bad kid? No, of course not. Fue for third person. Nosotros form, fuimos. And ellos fueron. So they share. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron. And I know sometimes you look at that and you think, how am I ever going to tell them apart? You do. You just tell them apart by the context, by the rest of your sentence. You know you have to look at context anyway all the time. I'll put dar on the next slide so I don't have to squeeze it in right here. The third irregular verb that we'll be using in class is the verb dar, the verb to give. You would expect that you'd be using the endings that go along with the AR conjugation, since dar is clearly an AR verb, except that as we work in the preterite tense, it is a bit irregular. It uses the wrong set of endings. So diste, dio, dimos, and dieron are the forms of dar in preterite tense, and there are no accent marks. Okay, that takes care of it. That's the presentation that we need to share. So, el fin. We'll talk more about using preterite tense in class, and buena suerte. Ciao.